our volunteers, everyone a hand who helped put together that amazing today. It was really spectacular. As a part of the 70-year celebration, if you look outside the window, you'll notice a new marker. Reverend Chad O'Shea, who was the minister here for over 30 years, and really we stand on the shoulders of giants, and we have now a memorial marker in his honor, and so some exciting, wonderful things taking place. We kicked off our celebrations the last Sunday in September when Ricky Byers was here. How many of you got to enjoy Ricky? We've had some amazing experience, and then Dan Beckett, who cut his teeth on this ministry, went to ministerial school. He's out now and serving another spiritual community, but he came back, and then Reverend Jim Lee, who's a new person in the area. And today, as we wrap up the 70-year celebration, you're in for a real treat with the one and only Daniel Nahmod, who has flown in from California to be with us today. So, Richard, give me a little music that would sound like Daniel Nahmod. But under a reading. Richard can do it. I want to take the time and tell you a little bit about Daniel, because you really are in for a treat. I met him personally back in 2002, and I was familiar with his music before that because I had been a music director for Unity Church in Raleigh. His songs were lifesavers to me, and you will know and recognize many of his songs. Love Is My Decision, Sacred Love, One Power. The list goes on and on and on. Hundreds of songs he's written, and we sing a lot of his music here. He's an amazing singer-songwriter. He's also a talented producer, but what moves me most about him is his heart. He's a humanitarian. When I experienced him directly in 2002, I was a seminary student at Unity Village, and what they would do occasionally is, rather than our normal classes 2 times a year, we would have someone come in and create an intensive. It was sort of an immersion of sorts where an individual would share from their heart, and Daniel came in on one of those such times, and I was so moved because he's very raw and very real. And he shared in such a way that we laughed and we cried and we sang, and I was so blessed. And at the very end, all of us ministerial students, we said, well, we're going to take up a love offering and bless him for coming out to do this. And so I prayerfully inquired within what was mine to give, thinking it would be $20. And I saw that with another zero on the end, and I thought, well, you must be crazy. It was good, but I don't know if it was all that good and everything. And I was a full-time student, not working and having to pay tuition, and that was a lot of money, I thought, for an offering. But have you ever found yourself in that predicament that when you ask and you clearly hear the guidance, now the question becomes, will you ignore it? Well, I thought, being as I was a ministerial school student, it may be a good time to start practicing saying yes to that guidance. And so I did, and so I nervously wrote out that check, and he never knew who that was until I told him last night at the concert. And I've never told anybody who that was until today, really. I told him yesterday. But for me, I had been opened. And following that guidance, it wasn't so much about what I was being asked to do as was I was willing to follow the guidance. But a few weeks after that, things began to happen, blessings began to pour into my life. It taught me that what Daniel had been that day was an instrument. He's the kind of man that the music uses him, the song uses him. He is an instrument. And it taught me that whatever we're giving, we are in service to. We're being an instrument for it. And I learned how to put myself in the flow, and I've never looked back. And it's such a privilege and a joy to have him here today. He'll tell you a little bit, hopefully, about how he first discovered this Asheville area. But I've seen Daniel off and on through the years. I saw him again in 2018 at the Parliament of World Religions, where he was a keynote speaker, and he brought the house singing to Muslim, Jew, Baha'i, people of all different faiths, standing under what I consider to be his anthem of oneness. He has performed all over the world. You'll hear a little bit about his story, and his music has been used from places such as the Super Bowl, The Voice, American Idol, Saturday Night Live. He really is a prolific writer. But he's also, as I said, a real humanitarian. When Hurricane Katrina happened, he's the kind of guy that he flew down to Houston, went to the Astrodome, and for 2 days he walked around with his guitar, talking to people and singing, being a presence, a comfort, right there in the midst of it. In 2000, he was awarded the National Hospital Volunteer of the Year, where he lives in Los Angeles, California, for his musical work at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. And he's just an amazing individual, an incredible talent, and it's my joy to share with you today Daniel Nahmod. Would you please give him a warm welcome?
Hello. I used to be a lot more generous. Then I had a boy, and he takes everything I've got. He's 7, and I haven't had a spare quarter in my pocket since he was born. So. Anyway, nice to be here. I believe some of you are familiar with this song. I wrote one of the little secret dreams I have. This is going to sound way out of left field, so bear with me. Is I started writing prayer songs. I didn't plan on it. This is years ago, 2002, 3, something like that. I was invited to be the music for a service at Unity of Phoenix. It was just 1,200 people on Sunday, and it was going to be a service that was mostly music. And I started writing prayer songs, and this was one of them. I was in Yellowstone National Park when I wrote this song. And I discovered that what I really wanted to do with a prayer song was to language it in such a way that all of the world's religions could pray together through a song. So I called them hymns for humanity, but I kept that a secret until I released I wrote a bunch more a few years later. But when I released it, I kept it a secret that was my intention. So if you've ever heard When I Pray or Swing Wide the Doors or My Soul is Welcome Here, all of them are language in such a way. I wanted no one to have to run screaming from the room. That was the dream, such that maybe one day, long after I'm gone even, the world lays down its arms in defense of their own word for God and acknowledges that we're all okay right where we are. And maybe a song breaks out, and maybe I wrote that song and my dad will say, that and a quarter will get you a gumball. So clearly this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme, but as a dream, that's where these prayer songs came from. I call them the sacred love songs, and this is one of the most special to me. So I'm thrilled that you guys know it, and thank you to a band that's done a wonderful job already this morning, learning it with me. So here we go. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Darlene, you coming up here and sing this? There we go. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in, the deepest kind of love, to the deepest kind of love, the sweetest kind of life, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, everything I've ever done, everything I've ever seen, everything I've lost or won, everything I've lost or won, everything I've ever dreamed, everything I've ever dreamed has brought me here to the present moment, to the present moment, here to a new beginning, to a new beginning, here. And I'm seeing life so clearly now. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the deepest kind of love, the sweetest kind of life, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. 'Cause here I go, deeper, deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. Here I go, closer, closer, closer to my sacred source. Here I go, deeper, deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. Here I go, closer, closer, closer to my sacred source. Here I go, deeper, deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. Here I go, closer, closer, closer to my sacred source. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in, deepest kind of love, to the deepest kind of love, sweetest kind of life, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Get ready, my soul.
That's Daniel Nahmod.
Was it something I said? When things go wrong, it's natural to wonder What celestial rule did I break? When things go right, it's logical to ponder. What credit can I take? But the truth is so much easier. I don't need a master plan. I can live here in the moment, 'cause my life is in good hands. I don't need to know where the wind blows, 'cause God knows. I don't need to know what the future holds, 'cause God knows. I need never know how pain ends, how my heart mends. I can just let go, 'cause God knows. But still I find I'm crying out for answers. Guess I'm still craving control. And still I find I'm afraid of taking chances, as if I could damage my soul. But at this moment, I remember it comes so clear to me that the minute I surrender, I'm as safe as I could be. I don't need to know where the time goes, 'cause God knows. I don't need to know what the future holds, 'cause God knows. I need never know how pain ends, how my heart mends. I can just let go, 'cause God knows. Oh, I need never know how pain ends, how my heart mends. I can just let go. I can just let go. I can just let go, 'cause God knows. God knows. God knows. So much pushing and pulling, so much fighting and straining, so much laboring against waves and wind. I am tired, my arms are weary, my back is aching, my eyes are bleary. I think I'm finally ready to give in. I have struggled, I have cried, I have screamed inside about the kind of life I've tried to lead. Well, right now I think it's time for the very first time to lay down my body and mind and just be. If I stop steering my boat, does it sink? Oh no, current carries it along just so. If I stop steering my life, gonna be alright. I'll just go where the ocean says to go. Down the block or to the moon, round the world or just to my room. I can't say where I'm supposed to end up. I've resisted for so long, as if I could do no wrong, and it's never been quite good enough. It's a funny thing, I guess, this prideful human saying yes without knowing what I'm agreeing to. But there's a simple fact I find: the decision's never been mine. All I'll ever do is what I'm meant to do. If I stop steering my boat, does it sink? Oh no, current carries it along just so. If I stop steering my life, I'm gonna be alright. I'll just go where the ocean says to go. It's a scary thing for sure, to lay down my oars and quit pretending that I've ever been in charge. But it's scarier still to spend my strength and will and never even have a peaceful heart. So here goes the toughest thing. Ironic, don't you think, that it's so hard and so easy all at once? No, it's not laziness, it's just the deepest kind of trust that I'm okay when all is said and done. I'm okay when all is said and done. If I stop steering my boat, does it sink? Oh no, current carries it along just so. If I stop steering my life, I'm gonna be alright. I'll just go where the ocean says to go. I'll just go where the ocean says to go. I'll just go where the ocean says to go. There is an upright piano in the Hallbreich family home on Drake Street in Chicago in 1948. A little upright piano. My mom's parents had just arrived, emigrated from West Berlin, the safest place in Europe after the Holocaust for Polish Jews. They had barely survived the Holocaust. The rest of their family had not. They were in their 20s. Each of them had a brother with them, so 4 of them. They were sponsored by a distant relative who found their name in a book of survivors that were published after the war. They were sponsored to come to Chicago. My mom was a little girl. She was born, her mom went into labor on the back of a donkey as they traveled down from the work camp in Siberia where they had spent the war, back to Poland where they were no longer welcome, and then on their way to West Berlin where my uncle was born, my mom's little brother. My mom was a little girl and she still remembers the ship, she still remembers the float across the ocean from West Berlin to New York City. And she still remembers Union Station where they got on a train to Chicago and where they settled then on Drake Street in the north side of Chicago, down the street from these distant relatives. The first place they slept was in the living room of the house of these relatives who sponsored, my uncle says, at least 100 families that they found who were related in any way to them to come to America and to live in Chicago. When my grandparents got this house that the mortgage was co-signed by the family, by their distant relatives, they got the house and they got to know the Halbreich family across the street. And the Halbreich family had an upright piano in their living room. And my Bubby and Zadie were new to America and didn't know anything about Americans, but they saw the piano, and to hear my mom tell it, they saw this piano and they thought out loud, I guess a good American household has a piano. A nice American family has a piano. So before they bought furniture, my Bubby and Zadie bought a cheap little upright piano that they put in their living room. And that was in 1948, 49. In 1978, 79, one of their 3 grandsons, Danny, was taking piano lessons and would go to their house on Drake Street and play music that he was learning from his lessons for them. And 40 years after that, that piano is in my aunt and uncle's house, and Danny writes songs for a living. And it's not at all clear that I would be doing any of that if the Halbreich family hadn't had an upright piano in their living room. And in fact, one of the most special things I've done in all my 21 or 22 years of performing for a living, so to speak, was I got to sing at Mr. Halbreich's 90th birthday party. He died a few years ago, but his 90th birthday party, my uncle went, and it was in Palm Springs, and he said, and he told me to come, and I sat down and played a song on the piano, and then my uncle told the Halbreich family that the connection, and I got to thank the Halbreich family in person for putting a piano in their living room before my Bubby and Zadie ever met them. So today is everything I do is very personal. Songs are personal, stories are personal. There's no act here. What I talked about in the first service is what I want to talk about in the second service, but I'm coming at it a completely different direction, I think, already. If those of you who are here in the first service, you already have no idea what I'm doing. Everything's different, but that's just the way I like to roll because I like it, because I'm just telling you what's true for me at the moment. And so what I talked about in the first service was regret. I'm 49 years old, and I have done things that I'm proud of. Written songs I'm proud of. Haven't been late on the mortgage. I married a cute girl with a cute house 10 years ago exactly. Our 10th anniversary was a couple days ago, actually, just before I left on the plane. And we haven't been late on a mortgage. And the fact that that is true on the back, so to speak, of my music and her jewelry, but especially, mostly on my music, is something I'll forever be proud of. The fact that my boy is 7.5 and has never been hungry and has always had a roof over his head. As I like to tell him, the fact that whenever he gets thirsty, there's always milk in the fridge. I'm proud of that. Things I don't take for granted. But I also know that 20 years ago, when I moved to LA to make music, 21 years ago, I was not planning on singing about going where the ocean says to go and not needing to know because God knows. In fact, I had never actually been in a church. I grew up in synagogue, and church was almost a bad word. I'm not kidding. For a Holocaust surviving family, we were. PTSD was passed down. Fear of the world was passed down. There's a lot of trauma there. I'm sure many of you can relate, not necessarily a Holocaust story, but whatever club you were raised in, usually a club exists. They built the wall for a reason, right? And my family and my Jewish community in the world has walls up for a reason. I never was too into those walls, and I kind of, that joke, I think it's Groucho Marx, I don't want to be a member of a club that would have me as a member. And for me, I never actually wanted to belong to a club that excluded everyone else, which excludes me from most clubs, really, but certainly from mainstream traditional religion, and certainly from my own family's Judaism. Very, very traditional home, kosher home. My older brother's a rabbi, Rabbi Jack in New York, who I'm proud of. And I speak some Hebrew, and I know all the Jewish holidays and everything, but I was never vested in the exclusivity club. I'm sure I'm the only one in this room who is the heretic in the family. And the weirdo and the wacko and the liberal commie and the feminist and I'm sure I'm the only one in this room who is the oddball in your family. But for me, I stand out like the normal width foot that I have, which no one else in my family has. That's how I stand out. And I not only was I not raised to sing songs at all, actually. I was really raised to be a lawyer. Both my parents are, my mom's an attorney, my dad a law professor for 45 years, just retired last year. I was not supposed to go where the ocean says to go. I was supposed to plan and be meticulous and be a good boy and stop completely at stop signs, which I do mostly. That's like, the Clueless. You ever see Clueless, the movie? A girl rolls through a stop sign, and her friend says, "That was a stop sign." She said, "I totally paused." Anyway, that's not me. Anyway, and I was supposed to, marry a nice Jewish girl and have nice Jewish kids and have a nice professional job. And strike one, strike two, strike three, strike four, struck out on all of it, basically. Instead, I sing songs about faith and surrender and trust and inclusion for all the world's religions that I'm aware of, and I can't stop. It is a weird fire that burns. I don't mean to be melodramatic. I mean, it really is an intensity with which I do this strange job that's impossible to describe or explain, for which there is no pathway to wealth and fame. As far as I can tell, I've been looking for it, and it ain't there as far as I can tell. Unless it's me, but let's not entertain that possibility. Anyway, so I have wondered for 20 years why I moved to LA, settled into West Hollywood, claimed to want to succeed in the music business, and then ignored the music business and made sure the music business ignored me. As I said, if the theme for the morning is regret, here's how I'd like to frame it, because although this is entirely about me, it isn't at all about me. My goal would be for you to have a thought or a feeling you didn't expect to have. And so my question to you is, do you have a regret about a choice you made that has rolled forward in time and yielded the life you have now? And still a voice in your head second guesses one of those choices you made or didn't make, sentences you said out loud or didn't say, cities you moved to or didn't, job you took or didn't, school you went to or didn't, parent you had or didn't, girlfriend or boyfriend you left or didn't, truth you admitted or didn't, passion you pursued or didn't, that leaves you here today where you are and wondering what the hell just happened. Because I sometimes do, and sometimes I don't. Like I said, when I think of my boy well-fed and a roof over our head and the mortgage paid, I have no regrets. But when I hear something on the radio, some codependent, cranky piece of crap that I could have written in my sleep that I never would have even written because it was too dumb. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'll say to my wife, I would not have let that song get out of my writing room. I can't even use examples because it's rude to do it, because everybody's doing the best they can, and every song on the radio deserves to be there for one reason or another. It's a lot of work to get there. It's no accidents, right? So I'm not going to single out a specific example. I could, but I'm not going to. But meanwhile, I keep doing this thing. There's one power, invisible, and just see it everywhere and every day. One power indescribable, and just speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings, or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. We speak so many languages, different clothing, different colors, different names. But different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. We'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, or Jesus, or Lord. Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem, or heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, or it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth, or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, yeah. One power is what we are. It's the moment of creation. It's an everlasting peace, a freedom of forgiveness. It's the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby, the serenity of sleep. It's the anger we abandon for its love that's most deep. It's one power. Forever in you and me. It's the power of the love in you and me. For years, I have been wondering why I have done the things I've done, how I ended up the way I ended up. But over time, I've started to frame the question differently and take a look instead at the hidden genius of the plan, like the the secret thread, the invisible thread that has wound through what I've done and the way I do it, that makes a lot more sense than would at first look. Doesn't look like a business plan, doesn't look like a career plan, but it actually, there's a 35,000-foot view that I'm starting to get that reframes my choices and reframes the work I do. And that is giving me a real peace of mind, I have to tell you. It's not giving me a free pass. I still feel like I have work to do. But I'm becoming more and more aware of the notion of planting seeds. Those of you who were here last night heard me sing a song called Planting Seeds. And in fact, planting seeds is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I wrote a song called Planting Seeds in Utah on a sabbatical I took, 2006. It became an album called Water. Where the Ocean Says to Go is on that album. And there's a song on there called Planting Seeds. So I released that album, and about 5 years ago, I got an email from somebody asking me, do you know this guy? Because he's quoting you. And I did not know him. So I read this article about this guy named Nimesh Patel. His first name, nickname Nemo. N-I-M-O, not the fish. And Nemo is an Indian-American kid. Parents live in Southern California. He was on a fast track in corporate America, went to Pennsylvania, UPenn, Ivy League, super bright guy. He was headed for wealth and expensive suits and nice vacations. And had kind of an epiphany when he started. He left the corporate world to become a musician, became a rapper with a Sony record deal, a major label deal in Southeast Asia. Was succeeding. Started, I'm not kidding, all these things before he was like 30, right? Started an animation studio and was succeeding. And then had a realization while a song of his was climbing the charts and airing heavily on MTV in India, right? He had a realization that he was chasing something that didn't feel like it was worth chasing anymore. He was pursuing something that didn't feel meaningful enough to him. And he dropped out of the music business, of the studio, closed the whole thing down, and wanted to be of service and wanted to get quiet and understand what was his to do. So he moved to Gandhi's ashram in Ahmedabad. And yeah, I do know Arun over the years, and his wife was wonderful. Arun, for those of you who weren't here, he was a boy living with grandfather, and you can feel it. So he moved to Gandhi's ashram in Ahmedabad and started volunteering and started a school for 16 kids who were living in cardboard boxes and corrugated tin and on the streets and in the slums around Ahmedabad, and there are many. Enrolled 16 kids and their families in a school, taught academics, personal hygiene, arts, a daily act of kindness was on the curriculum, okay? Those 16 kids, he then rounded up chaperones, funding, and visas to take those 16 kids on a tour of the United States to perform at performing arts centers around the U.S., to share their life stories and to share love, okay? And by the way, when I perform with Nemo, I say, I used to think I was a good person till I met this guy, All 16 of those kids, by the way, this is years later, now 4 years later, all 16 of those kids are enrolled in private schools on full scholarships. Would have been unimaginable to them before Nemo built his program in Ahmedabad. So he's giving an interview about the tour to a website, and he's promoting the tour to get people to come out to see these kids and experience these kids. And he said, when I got on an airplane to move to India, I was given a CD by a friend of mine. He dropped me off at the Oakland airport, handed me a CD, and I said, no, man, I don't want to hear any music. And the guy said, I just have a feeling you'll like this. This isn't a plug, by the way. I'm just telling you the story. And so Nemo takes this CD to India and hesitantly puts it in and presses play. And to hear him tell it, he listened to only one album for 3 years while he did this work of building this school. And then when he's giving an interview promoting the tour, he says there was one song by there's this unknown artist in this obscure album. And I listened, there was one song in particular that kept reminding me that what I was doing was just what I was meant to do, but that the outcome wasn't up to me and that was okay. And he said, the chorus goes, whatever grows will grow, whatever dies will die, whatever works will work, whatever flies will fly. Whatever fails will fail, what's meant to soar will soar. I am planting seeds, nothing more. So somebody forwarded me the email, said, do you know this guy? He's quoting you. And I wrote to Nemo, oh my God, man, I've got tears in my eyes. I can't believe you're listening to my music halfway across the world, saving kids' lives. I can't tell you what that means. I'm touched beyond any, I can't tell you. And he wrote back in 2 minutes, oh my God, from India, I can't believe it's you. The kids are coming to LA, you gotta do Planting Seeds, you gotta sing the Planting Seeds song, you gotta let me do it with you. You're gonna love the kids. And Nemo and I have become good friends and collaborators. But the point of the story actually is that I wrote that song Planting Seeds entirely for myself. It was all, it was my own story. It was a moment. I put it on a record. I sent out the record. And halfway around the world, 5 years later, it was inspiring or supporting a guy saving lives. He's the epitome of the Planting Seeds idea. So the question then becomes, what seeds have you planted that you don't know you've planted? Right? You've been on whatever path you've been on, whatever questions you have about, and maybe I'm projecting, maybe you got none. Maybe it's gone all according to plan. But if it hasn't, and it hasn't for me, maybe you've planted more seeds than you know. Maybe you've done more good than you know. And maybe, and most likely, you'll never know. And maybe, like I chose that first song on purpose, maybe you don't need to know. Maybe it's enough to know that just like yesterday and just like 10 years ago and just like 40 years ago, just like 70 years ago for some of you, today is just right. Sorry. It might be. And if it is, how does it feel? How quiet is the critical voice? And how much deeper is the sleep? And how much louder is the laughter? I'm not trying to be poetic. It's literally true, right? How much more often do you smile if today is just right? That line in Ocean says, where the ocean says to go, at the very end, I'm okay. What is it? I'm okay when all is said and done. Simple phrase, seems like a cliche, but really, I'm a child of lawyers. I don't actually, my half of my brain doesn't believe that. Only the half that wrote that song believes it and realizes that I'm okay. Or a line in I Don't Need to Know, the minute I surrender, I'm as safe as I can be. An accountant would disagree, a financial planner would disagree, the TSA would disagree, a doctor would disagree, the news would disagree. So how do I define safe and how do I define right? That's up to each of us. And if I can even experiment, dabble in the possibility that there have been no accidents and no mistakes, that regrets are squandering a couple of precious minutes of life, that I'm okay right where I am. Maybe there's a happier life there. Maybe there's purer happiness, like we watched Jude have. He's 7, right? When's the last time, this sounds a digression, but when's the last time you looked in a mirror and thought nothing critical? Jude does it every day. He's 7. One time he said, I kind of have a big head. Broke my heart. Broke my heart. First negative thing he'd ever said looking in the mirror, and we know it won't be the last. But usually, he's just all out there, and usually naked in the house, like a little wild animal. I've been planting seeds on the ground, watering them with my sweat and tears, scattering them all around. Guess it's what I'm supposed to do with my years. The funny thing is I may know what I've planted, but never what will show. It always seems to be a perfect mystery. Whatever grows will grow, whatever dies will die, whatever works will work, whatever flies will fly, whatever fails will fail, what's meant to soar will soar. I am planting seeds, nothing more. Ooh, sometimes I still like to pretend I know what the harvest will be, but I always find out in the end it was never really up to me. The funny thing is when I just do my work and simply trust, it always seems that life is looking out for me. Whatever grows will grow, whatever dies will die, whatever works will work, whatever flies will fly, whatever fails will fail, what's meant to soar will soar. I am planting seeds, nothing more. Now, I am way over time, as I was in the first service, and it's making me look like a liar that I apologize for going so late in the first service. So I can either stop now, or I can tell you one more little story and sing one more song. Are you okay with a few extra minutes? What I should say is, okay. Anyway, all right. So the last story I want to tell real quickly is, and I did tell this to the first service group, but it was a special moment, and again another perfect example of the planting seeds idea is. A moment that I had with my little boy. There was a little boy in his class in kindergarten named Ethan who had just arrived in the United States from Vietnam with his little brother, baby brother, and his parents. And the four of them didn't speak any English, and they showed up at school, kindergarten, and Ethan was lost from the get-go, and who could blame him? Didn't have any idea where he was, what country, what city. Didn't know the culture, didn't know a single kid, didn't speak a word of English, and he had a hard time in kindergarten. In the first couple months, he couldn't follow any instructions, of course, because he couldn't understand them, and it was a tricky thing. We kept hearing stories about trouble with Ethan in class, and then one day his Jude and Ethan's kindergarten class teacher called, and said. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Nahmod. I just had to call you today. And we're like, uh-oh, She said, I wanted you to know that your son is the kindest boy in the kindergarten class. Right? And as I told the group last night at the concert, I started crying immediately. And my wife looks at me like, oh, God. She said, not only does he always, he finds the colored crayons that kids can't find, and he helped a couple kids who were lost find their way to the bathroom, and he's just always looking out for everybody. But today, especially, I read a story to the class, and they were all sitting on the rug, and when I finished the book, Jude raised his hand, and I said, yes, Jude. And he said, I think Ethan did such a good job listening that he should get an extra point today. And it reminded me immediately of my other Bubby, my dad's mom, who emigrated to the United States as a little girl from Poland, youngest of 13. All 13 kids emigrated with mom and dad. My Bubby lived so long, She lived to 98. She lived so long she couldn't remember the names of some of her siblings. Never had dementia, but they'd been gone for so long she couldn't name all 12 brothers and sisters. Smart as a whip, funny, always up for a joke, tough as nails. A real character, my Bubby was. But I was there at her deathbed at 98, and she was still talking about one of the great achievements of her life was that when she started kindergarten, Betty couldn't speak a word of English. And in second grade, she won the spelling bee. And winning the spelling bee was something she took to her grave as one of the proudest things she'd ever achieved. Right? For 90 years, she held on to that. And it reminded me of Jude and Ethan. And I told my boy, I said, you don't know what seed you planted. I didn't use that phrase. I said that might be the first time his name has been spoken with a smile in that classroom. He probably didn't know what you said, but he knew how it felt. And he knew the teacher smiled, and he knew the rest of the class looked at him and smiled. And you don't know what seed you're planting with a moment like that, and neither do we. And we will probably never know what good we have done. That email from Nemo was one of those 1 in a million things. And the same is true for everyone who walks this earth and says a kind word and does the best they can and loves who they can love and gives what they can give and does the best work that they have to work to do. That is the life well lived. That is a life that deserves to be without regret. I didn't know I was going to write a song about that moment with Jude, but maybe a year later I wrote this song, and this I'll close for now. Lately I've been thinking about what motivates me to give a couple dollars to a stranger on the street, to hold the door, carry groceries, help a neighbor in need. When history repeats itself in headlines every day, solutions never big enough for problems that we face. As a man, as a dad, what difference can I make? 'Cause I know better than to think I'll be remembered for a favor or a quarter or a smile. Oh, but maybe before I return to sender, I can do one thing worthwhile. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to raise a kind child. Sure would help if our boy went and got an MBA and took care of his artist mom and dad in their old age. But let's face it, Wall Street probably isn't in his DNA. But when his first grade teacher said she wanted us to know, it's Jude who always comforts any kid who sits alone. There's just so much pride my heart can take. My retirement can wait. 'Cause I know better than to think I'll be remembered for a fortune or a pension or a prize. Oh, but maybe before I return to sender, I'll have done one thing worthwhile. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to raise a kind child. I don't want him to think the world is his to save. It's too much pressure anyway, it can't be done. I don't want him to think he has to be a saint, 'cause the truth is saints don't have any fun. Mostly I just hope my boy will come to understand. No 401k or GPA can make a happy man. It's having roots, doing good, helping out where you can. So take some roots, do some good, take somebody's hand. And you'll know better than most what really matters, what makes living this life worthwhile. And there may come a day your own kids will remember how their granddad used to say with a smile that he raised. We raised a kind child.
Daniel, you don't wear your heart on your sleeve. You sing your heart in your songs, and it is such a blessing to us. Would you rub your hands together and extend this blessing to Daniel? Daniel, we love you. We bless you. We appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Aren't you glad you came? He's an amazing person to experience. Yes. Yeah. He has got one final song that you're truly going to enjoy, but we want to take this opportunity to ask our ushers to come forward. This is the time where we pause and just take a look around and express your appreciation to those who have held this space together, who have created this together. This is also where we have the opportunity to give, and so we acknowledge the gifts that flow through our lives and the gifts that flow through this ministry. And so we hold those gifts in our heart. We hold these gifts of tithe and offering in our hand together. Would you affirm with me? Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. I am now in perfect balance and flow with the universal tides of giving and receiving. Thank you, God, and so it is. This next song he kicked off this past June to a room full of folks from Unity, and it just had us all jaw-dropping by the end, so you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah. I introduced that song then. It was even fresher than it is now, and it's still not released. My 22nd album's coming out in a few weeks, and this is the title song off it, but when I went in front of that group, it was almost all ministers, and I got up and I said, the following song is presented with the understanding that this is a safe space, you know. They thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, so I have a thank you for the reception, and I hope you enjoyed the morning and got something out of it. And I have a table outside with CDs, obviously, and I also have the 4th edition of my USB drive. It's a complete collection of all the inspirational music I've ever made in these 20 years. So 13 albums on there, 160... I think it's 167 songs, so like 11 or 12 hours of music in one little object that, if there were any justice, it would weigh about 1,000 pounds because it's so much blood, sweat, and tears in there. But it's a complete collection of inspirational music if you're interested in that. If you don't, I told the group last night, if you don't know what a USB drive is, you don't want it. Don't even ask. Don't ask. You just don't want it. Trust the spinning discs instead. And then the other thing I have out the table is my wife is a silversmith. She's a stay-at-home mom, and she's an artist, and she makes beautiful, beautiful jewelry when my boy is at school. And then I take it with me on the road and display it proudly at my table. Whether you're in the market for jewelry or not, you're welcome to just take a look. It's very shiny and very pretty, and she just does great work. So I'm super proud of my wife's work on my table next to me. So here we go. One more song. way outside the box, way outside my comfort zone, but you now know a lot of context for where a song like this would come from. And in fact, like One Power captured something that I think I was born to say, this song captures an answer to some of the questions I've talked about today, but in a slightly unconventional way. So I hope you enjoy it, and thanks again. Here we go.
I could sing about mistakes I've made, broken hearts and broken wings. I could sing about my aches and pains and the one that got away. But it seems to me the world has its hurts to spare. Shadows are everywhere. I decided I cried enough. There's plenty of songs about tough love. I'm gonna sing about love. Gonna sing about love. Lift somebody up instead of talking about tough love. I can't deny I still dream about the glory, the Grammy, the gold. I cannot lie, I still wish sometimes my eyes and my heart would close. But it seems to me my family escaped the war, and they never sang anymore. They lost everything they had, and if a song is all I can give back, I'm gonna sing about love. Gonna sing about love. Lift somebody up. Lift somebody up. Gonna sing about love instead of talking about tough love. Oh, no more tough love. Tell you what I'm gonna do. Gonna take my cue from a few folks I look up to. I'm gonna sing about love. Stevie Wonder sings in the key of life. Bobby McFerrin says, "Be happy, it'll be alright." Marvin Gaye showed the way to what's going on. It's a wonderful world thanks to Louis Armstrong. Soul Asylum saved those runaway kids. John Lennon just imagined and the whole world did. John Denver took a skyward, Tina Turner to the sea. Stevie Winwood to a higher love. John Legend and Comet to freedom. Pete Seeger's gonna overcome. Bob Marley just smiled at the rising sun. Eminem will lose himself before the moment's gone. Miss Jackson knows the knowledge is what we want. Gloria Gaynor maintained that we're gonna survive. Tim McGraw wants us to live like we are dying. Aretha got R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Bette Midler from a distance, the whole world we see. Tom Petty free falls. Leanne hopes we dance. Josh Groban raised us up. If we're hurting, R.E.M. understands. Irving B blessed the USA. Van Morrison ushered in a brand new day. Whitney sang about the greatest love of all. Johnny Nash can see clearly now the rain won't fall. Pink notes were beautiful. Christina does too. Rihanna sees us shining like a diamond. We keep working like the Foo Fighters. Fight the power. Public Enemy's head. Miley is a climber. Andy Grammer keeps his head up. Bill Withers, we can lean on him. Natasha's unwritten. Taylor Swift shakes it off again. Lady Gaga was born this way. Jason Mraz truly got to be our friend today. Well, that guy's peace. Wonder where is the love? Desiree gotta be. Journey never stop believing in us. Simon over troubled water made a bridge. Elton John lit a candle for Diana. He did. It's the same love. Macklemore was moved to pray. Izzy made a rainbow with an ukulele. James Brown, Mountain Proud, Bruce Hearts, we laid it out the way it is. Queen made us such a champion. You too, Dr. King and the power of one. Sam Cooke made it look, change is gonna come. Peter Gabriel ain't giving up on us just yet. We are the world, saved lives, no star they couldn't get. Irene Cara, what a feeling alive. Pharrell made us happy. Katy Perry lit a firework in the sky. Carole King, we've got a friend. Switch foot dared us all to move again. Paul McCartney's words of wisdom were to let it be. And the weight of the world was taken off by Hollow Black and BG. So what you gonna do? So what do I do? What you gonna do? I'll tell you what I'm gonna do.
I'm trying to think if there are any of my favorite songs that he missed in that, and I haven't come up with one yet, so thank you so much, Daniel. Whew. So many ways to offer. So let me invite our ushers down and our prayer chaplain and Reverend Elan representing our sacred service. And as they come down and we're blessing the offering, I also want to hold up some of our newest prayer shawls, one of our ministries and ways of giving, and we will bless these along with our offering, knowing that as they go to folks, to surround them with the comfort and love of this congregation, that your blessing will be in them. So let's bless all of these ways of offering.
In utmost gratitude, we bless the resources that flow through our lives and through our Unity Center, the gift of prayer in our sacred connection, in our prayer shawls, our capacity to serve and make a difference with our lives, and together we affirm the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God enables us, the presence of God aligns with us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. There will be prayer chaplains. You'll have to go by the scary dragon to get to the prayer chapel today. But trust me, beyond the dragons, there is prayer. So it's now the end of October, which means that anyone that was born in this month is invited to come forward so that we can bless you in song. So let's see all of our October babies up here. Come on, don't be shy, don't be shy. If you're born in October, we want to see you. Here comes some more. They're coming up. So we bless you by singing to you. Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Wonderful. We all are wonderful. So we join hands with them as we sing ourselves out in the peace into the world.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be with God as creator. Brothers and sisters are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with Thank you.